you a werewolf?
I am not a werewolf, but I am your host, Scott Odell. I'm joined by host Jeff Garst.
Hey, Scott, not a werewolf.
Host Peter Evans.
Also not one.
And special guest host Kaleb Mishu.
So glad to be here. Just a simple villager.
Cool, we win.
And before we get too far into this episode, I would like to just plug Omaha Gives, because you still have a day, if you're listening to this on Tuesday or Wednesday, to go to Omaha Gives and donate to Spielbound.
You also want to plug the Gloomhaven Steam game. Good choice.
Yeah, I was like, what?
And the fact that you Googled Poor Jennifer because you didn't understand that.
I did not know what Poor Jennifer was. But anyway, if this is Tuesday or Wednesday, go
back one episode to get
Omaha
that one.
Gives and donate to Spielbound. All right. Yeah, if you want to know about Caleb's Poor Jennifer moment, go back to last episode.
Those AirPods go like 40 feet apparently.
So they weren't even in your ears?
No, I was like, you know what are the chances this is still recording? I'll take them out because that usually makes them stop. Put them in my pocket. Apparently not.
The Apple commercial would have you believe that they would stop when you remove them from your ears.
Yes. I think at 40 feet away, it's like, we don't know if we were in your ears anymore. We'll just record everything.
All right. So Peter gave us a challenge, which was
you want me to describe it here?
Yeah, describe the challenge.
Yeah, so the challenge was if you had to reduce your collection to down to 10 games, and not necessarily your top 10 favorite games, you want to have representation across different mechanisms, different player counts, whatever you can to have some diversity in your games for offerings, but limit it to 10. What do you keep? Or if you don't have 10, what collection would you put together of 10? But the challenge
was to reduce your personal collection of games down to 10.
Yep.
Which I had to modify a little bit because I only have like 25 games.
This is the reason I'm on this episode, is because my wife's like, yes, we will get your 6,000 and some games down to 10. That's exactly what we will do. And I'm like, no, this is hypothetical. So like, no, this is not hypothetical. Let's make this happen.
Are you back to 6,000?
So I'm probably around 8,000. So we don't talk about the actual numbers because the Board Game Geek, I've been tracking since their app improved, and I'm almost up to 5,000, but there's about 1,000 more that I haven't put in there. And then there's even more at Spielbound that I haven't put any of those in there.
I still remember the first time I went to Spielbound before I'd ever met any of you. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we opened our first game, and it said, given by Dr. Kaleb Mishu. I was like, oh, that was nice of him. Then I opened the next game, and it said, donated by Kaleb Mishu. And we were like, oh man, this guy donates a lot of games. And then we played like 4 or 5 games that day, and like all of them, and we're like, who is this mystery man?
It was just a way to offload games from my house, right?
You opened a business instead of a storage container.
Yeah. So Peter, are you north or south of 2,000?
I am not at 2,000, I don't think.
Oh.
I have not been logging them for quite a while here. I think if I were to include, every expansion, maybe. But, yeah.
Jeff, what about you?
Oh, I downsized significantly. I'm less than 100 for sure. I'm probably in the 75 to 80 range.
So I kind of internalize this challenge as if you went on vacation forever, here's the 10 games that you would bring, and you had various player counts and stuff like that. But so are we assuming we're not going to acquire any more board games?
I think that's the assumption. You're going to have it down to 10.
So for Peter and Kaleb, you're going to be uploaded to the afterlife, and these are the 10 you can take with you. Right?
Sure.
Okay.
So I took a picture from the basement of Spielbound. We have 30 boxes, large boxes, that are just filled with empty expansion boxes. So just to give you an idea of like what 5,000 or 6,000 games might look like, you have to consolidate games. So
yeah. Yeah, all my expansion boxes I break down and just keep the lid, just the flat part of the lid, and I have a very full box of expansion lids.
That's a precursor to that. Some of these games I'm mentioning are games that have a lot of expansions that I'm assuming that they all just go into one box.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, that was part of the rules I put in here. So whatever you have for the game, if you have all expansions and everything, that
acquire more
factors in.
For that.
Yes.
I internalized it sort of as a not these are the only 10 games you'll ever play, but these are the 10 games that you're going to be spending most of your time playing. And so I went for things that were high variability, high replayability, and were not just the same every time, in addition to trying to fit in, multiple expansions.
Right.
Well, what's your first one then, Jeff?
I think it's pretty obvious what my first one is, and that is the Gloomhaven.
Gloom.
In terms of variability and replayability, you're hard-pressed to find a game that's better than Gloomhaven. You have the base game has 95 scenarios, plus you've got, thousands of combinations of characters that change, player counts. It only goes up to 4 players, which is probably the biggest knock against the game. But, I mean, I've spent...
I couldn't imagine having more.
I thought it only had 60 scenarios.
So yep, I'll chime in there too. That's one of the ones on my list. So I'm gonna mark mine off as we go. I won't necessarily do them in order, but
I just included my Kickstarter backing of the Gloomhaven, Frosthaven.
That counts. Frosthaven's in there. Like I said, Gloomhaven.
You backed it on.
No.
I'm gonna say
after we talked with Marcus about it, I figured that the Jeff and Marcus and Cody were kind of pushing me towards the Gloomhaven for babies.
Jaws
the simpler version
will be available.
Jaws the Lion.
Will be available in July in Target and August everywhere.
Yeah.
So wait until August and buy it at Spielbound.
And I will say that Spielbound will have a whole bunch of copies of Frosthaven as well. In case you didn't do the Kickstarter, you can get it through us.
Yeah.
So Caleb, did you have Gloomhaven on your list?
No, it was not.
Wow.
One of my favorite games of all time, but I feel like I've gone through it all and I would enjoy it more, but it's not one I would keep.
I mean, I'll just say that first on my list at number 0 is definitely a Spielbound membership, because for $150 a year, you can get access to a giant library where the games change or whatever, and you can also step into a community of gamers who have a bunch of board games. And the reason my collection is at 25 is not necessarily because I don't ever buy board games, which is true. I only buy 1 or 2 a year, but because I can play games that Spielbound gets, or I can play games that, Peter or Caleb or someone else from Spielbound, gets. So I've been very fortunate there.
Good thing we like you. So
I don't want
if
to.
If you were a jerk, you'd be like, you're not going to borrow any games.
I don't want to give you 2 an out and say that you 2 should just keep buying a bunch of board games when there's a medium between that.
I figured I've got plenty of friends who buy the Steffenfeld games and the Euros, yes. And I actually have very few friends who get games like Gloomhaven. It's me, Warren. That's really about it. Peter gets them but never plays them.
So this is where Scott's going to actually edit the video and stop you when he says I have very few friends. And there it is.
You don't even need to edit. That's just true.
And I get my friends and games confused. Kind of I'm talking to my roommate. He's actually a copy of Gloomhaven.
Jeff's going to become a meme. I have very few friends meme.
Yeah. We love you, Jeff.
No, you don't have to lie.
All right, my most obvious one, I'll say it before anyone else does, if it's on their list, is Newsfjord.
I also have Newsfjord.
It is on my short list, but it did not make it.
I figured
that one. Make mine.
That one and Gloomhaven would be the most common repeated ones on lists. I mean, we don't have to say anything else about Newsfjord except it's possibly the best game ever made.
Game of the year for 2018.
It's the only game I've played in person in the past couple of weeks.
Really?
Melissa and I had
getting really good, eh?
A little time, and so she mentioned a game that takes longer, and I was like, "How about Newsfjord? Because we can maybe theoretically get it done." We didn't get it set up and torn down in enough time, but Peter, what's on your list?
Well, I mentioned Gloomhaven, so let's hop over to Caleb.
Well, I'll mention my Newsfjord equivalent, which is Agricola.
Okay.
So it's longer. It's one of my favorites. You got all the expansions with it. There's tons of ways of playing, tons of different decks, and the tension that comes along with it is just fantastic.
The Simpsons deck is very good.
Agricola is on my list for next podcast when we say, okay, if we're going to have a bonfire, what 10 games do you bring to throw in as fuel in the fire?
That's amazing that you put Youth Fjord on your list, but not that Agricola's in the bonfire. So that's fun.
I start. When we started doing these to YouTube, I was able to start using my home computer, and I found episode 0 of Spielcast that me and Jeff recorded, and it was just like complete negativity. And Jeff was like, "Oh, are we going to put this one out?" And I was like, "No, we're not going to be known for negative stuff."
The first episode, the one that everybody listens to, and they're like, "What are these guys wrong? What's wrong with them?"
Yeah.
Get
So
some
that's what I
happy
said.
juice.
Is
These
if we
guys
ever,
even like games?
if we ever did a Patreon or the YouTube equivalent or whatever, we could do that as a stretch goal. Get a certain amount. You can have the episode 0 that we were never going to release because we were being mean.
Or watch you
All right.
throw your copies into the fire.
Yeah.
I'll take the next one here to follow on because I do have an Uwe game, but I chose A Feast for Odin. And the reason I put that on there is because I wanted to have one Polyomino game
Grab your copy, Caleb.
and a heavy-duty worker placement game. Plus, it's got a little bit of push your luck, and it's a good solo game. So those are my reasons for throwing it on there.
This
I
is
was
a beast of a game.
I was
It's an
about to make a
opus
joke
magnus.
that like
A feast of a game?
A feast.
I-
And
I
look,
was about to make a joke that like the amount of matter in the game doesn't mean that you win the list, but then I realized my first pick was Gloomhaven. So
But yeah, I've got a whole stack of Uwe. I'm trying to get on camera there, but yeah, I have a whole column dedicated.
the
his stuff
expansion
behind
goes
me.
well. It doesn't all fit in the same box, though. Not
No,
well.
it does not.
I may not have played A Feast for Odin.
Oh, there we go. I
What's
have
the
it
two-player
out
game?
because I want to
What's the
play
big
it.
two-player game that he has? Like the really
Fields of
in-depth
Arle.
one. Yeah, okay.
Fields of Arle.
I always
Yeah, we
played
played
those
that.
too.
Fields of Arle.
And
Yeah.
it's 3-player with the expansion.
It does not need a third player.
When you have a third wheel.
You're like, hey,
All
come on
right.
for the ride. Get in your
you
wagon.
didn't have to take a shot at me like that, Scott.
I mean this.
All right. Anybody else
what
have
if-
their number 9 they want to?
Other
Sure.
Uwe games.
I'll say Eclipse.
I have that one on my list.
I mean, it's got 7 expansions now at this point.
I put Twilight Imperium or Eclipse just because it's such a great type of game.
Yeah, when Peter and I were playing Scythe, I was like, not really scratching the, build up your economy and then get a bunch of military and go kill peoples. And I was
Yeah,
like,
they-
I want to play Eclipse.
Eclipse or TI3 or 4 were just off my list. I don't really have a big epic game on mine. Scythe might be.
You have to have epic games.
Feast for Odin is epic, but different kind. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, Gloomhaven's pretty epic.
that's true.
You can only
Peter, you have
play it
Scythe
a
on
few
your list?
thousand times, get a few.
I do,
hundred
so I'll
hours.
go ahead and knock that one off. Scythe is on my list, which kind of covered the area control, tech tree, variable power players, plus it plays up to 7. That
And
was
there's so much replayability with the expansions and everything else. with
7's
it.
not
Yeah.
9, though.
it is not 9. That is correct.
I put that on my list too, Pete. Scythe.
Okay, so
Well, I guess if you get Fenris.
yeah,
Oh,
yep, everything
yeah.
comes with it. My giant box with tons of everything in it.
Well, my fan-created campaign for Eclipse is going to come with my copy of Eclipse.
So, those expansions, those additions to Eclipse and Scythe just make me glad that you have a big enough table to play these games.
Yeah.
Just don't forget your tchotchke full of all the improvements.
That's an better joke.
Yes, one press con I did forget a Chotsky of exploration tiles for Eclipse.
Was that a
Sorry,
year or
guys,
2 years ago? In a
That was like
pod-
5 years ago.
2 years ago, maybe.
No,
You mentioned PretzCon. I assume it got canceled this
I
year.
assume
It was
too.
canceled,
It
sadly, yes.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what the exact date was, but it's usually that first
the
weekend.
24th.
Yeah, it was
Baseball.
canceled.
Pouring out for
Yep.
PretzCon.
All right, I've got 3 of mine out. Jeff,
I'll
what
go
else
next.
you got?
I've got 2 of mine out. My other one that sort of is in the same family as Gloomhaven in terms of why I put it on my list is Kingdom Death Monster. Just in terms of epicness, it definitely fits the bill. So if you're picking games that these are the only games you're going to be playing for a while, you definitely want something that feels different every time. And if you've got all the expansions and everything, you're playing with different monsters. It definitely does do that.
Jeff,
those
you
are
need
my
to get a
games.
Kickstarter credit card, one that gives you like 5% back for spending on Kickstarter.
Say,
Like
if you have
one of the 2 biggest Kickstarter games of all time. So
if you have all the expansions for Kingdom Death Monster, that's more than my first car cost, I think.
Probably me too.
much more than my first car.
But
That just shows my age.
if we're talking about what games you want to bring, it's definitely in there. And it's also great if you need to, drop it on Wile E. Coyote or something.
I'm like a bonfire. I'm like, what?
Jeff, is your average game box size like way bigger than Ticket to Ride?
It's about a 4-year-old.
It might be. Because then I got. Well, I won't go into that because it'll.
Have you ever gotten to painting miniatures before?
I'm actually working on miniatures right now. So here's my. This is not going to be an interesting moment at all if you're not watching the video. But here's the start of my Orchid Spellweaver.
Let me describe it to you.
Oh,
it's a
that's the
miniature
one I
that has
was.
some paint on it.
Here's the start of my.
It's just a
scoundrel.
shadow.
Oh,
Very
I see
good.
3 colors there.
I've got other ones, but they're spoilers. So
Okay.
anyway.
Fantastic.
So yes, I do paint miniatures. My goal is to get good at painting miniatures before I touch the Kingdom Death stuff because
They're
that
huge.
feels like you wouldn't. If you wanted to start tinkering with cars, you wouldn't start with your dad's Benz. So I feel the same way about painting miniatures with Kingdom Death. Like
Yeah.
those are so expensive.
They're
You
also
don't wanna-
pretty big though, right?
Oh, they're
Some are.
huge,
So that's
but they're very detailed.
it's a little more forgiving though, you know.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, Caleb, what else are you keeping?
Terraforming Mars. It's clearly become our top game to play with friends, and my wife loves it, and she's really good at it. And the expansions just provided a much better way of playing, and the components. It's one of the few games though that I'm really disappointed that they don't have an official deluxe version of it. That we're just like buying other Etsy or Broken Token, other things to really make it how it needs to be for the best play. But it's on my list.
On mine
Yep.
as well.
Mine as well.
Whoa.
4-way?
It might be on mine for next episode.
Okay.
All right. So I said 2. I'll say third one. What's the most obvious one to be on my list? Isle of Skye.
Oh, okay. That's a good pick.
Yep, I have that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, the more I play that game, the more longer it's lasted, the better it is. It's such a great game to play with social gamers and people who, it's a good game to teach new people. It's also a good game to play with people you play games with, every third month or whatever. They like it, they pick up on it, and it's a self-balancing game with the action mechanic. Like, it's such a good game.
I believe Isle of Skye won the Kenner Spiel the same year that Codenames won Spiel, so it just got completely overshadowed.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's also one of those few games where the expansions don't make it better.
Yeah,
I've not played
I would
with
recommend the base game.
Yeah.
I've played on the iPad, but I haven't played with the expansion.
There's a bunch of games that are simply whatever. Like, they're just, very simple but very good, very distilled down. And then, like, the expansions, like, fundamentally change the game. I'm thinking of, like, King Domino or whatever, like, they're like the games where they just, like, have to add some stuff to appease gamers. And Isle of Skye is one that doesn't need anything extra. Like, different tiles or different, victory point conditions or whatever would be good, but
There's a whole bunch of those mini expansions for Isle of Skye that came out as like promos, but
yeah.
the 2 legit expansions just seem like such change to the main game that you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? So
Yeah. The other reason I love Isle of Skye is because every time I pick that game up at Spielbound, it's $36.99. Like, it's
Yeah.
That's
It's
a
a
good
lot
price.
of game for that price.
it's a real game. It's a good
that's
game.
patchwork now. So,
$36.99.
Patchwork is $36.99.
well, 35.
It's going up. Yeah, that went. Yeah, yeah. Isle of Skye, is a great game. It's a great game to buy as a gift. It's a great game to buy for your family. I'm not going to say it's like Catan or Ticket to Ride levels of friction to get into, but it's a good next step after that.
I think it's easier than Catan to learn.
It's nicer than Catan.
Yeah. Which is my next game, actually.
Oh, boo!
Boo.
But hear me out. This is actually the first one. This is the easiest one for me to pick because I have the
7,000.
You have the Ultra Deluxe.
I have the
version.
Catan 3D version, the 10th anniversary that comes with Cities and Nights. It's all ceramic and it's giant wooden trunk that sold retail for $400. Now it's like 5 times as much, but it's just such a nice way of playing that I'm like, okay, this is a great game.
If you polish a Catan, it's still a Catan.
Cities and Nights is my favorite version of it, and I have so many good memories. And this is before I knew of many other games. And actually, thinking of your favorite games, there's only so many of them existed before 2005.
Catan Cities and Nights is good, but you literally can just have victory points destroyed. Like your cities can be reduced to towns or settlements. Caleb, my favorite version of Catan, or back then it was called Settlers of Catan, is not your expensive one. It's your second edition one.
Oh yeah.
That one is like a blast from the past. Like, I don't know how. Like, I've only ever seen second edition at your house.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like it's from the 70s when really it's from the mid 90s.
And the colors that they have for the pieces they don't have available anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my Catan collection is behind me here. But yeah, that's the version I have as well.
That makes you an OG. Yeah, I like Catan as a memory.
I mean, I played it hundreds of times, and for a few years I was undefeated. I won it like 40 some times in a row, but I couldn't tell anybody because it's the type of game that people think that you're good, they will crush you. Yeah. They won't trade with you. They'll all gang up on you. And so I finally lost. I'm like, yes, I can talk about it again. So.
Catan is free on Steam if people like it. Or World of Catan. I don't know what that is.
The Catan game is actually the Steam game I think is more fun than the board game because there's scenarios, so it almost becomes like a puzzle.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's kind of like Pandemic or Ticket to Ride. Like, we've played it so much that we're just over it.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a solid game. It's just not one that I'm going to pick up all the time.
Well, and also like playing Pandemic right now just feels depressing.
Somebody came in.
It's got to wait for Hot Zone North America.
Yeah. And we're going to survive, but we hope.
The next Pandemic Legacy Season 3 better have a part where people get tired of being in their houses, so then they go out to restaurants and
one of the
other
cards.
people.
Yeah.
All right.
Add 17 cubes.
Yeah.
Peter, do you have another one you want to?
I've got 5 off my list already here, Scott. I think you guys are behind. I've had a lot of crossover.
I'm down 4.
All right. I mean, I'll just, we've already talked about it a lot, but I'll say Clans of Caledonia, just because it feels good to play that game on a board with metal coins and, changing the board and getting your stuff out. Yeah,
while we're on that topic, I have Terra Mystica on mine, which is the game.
I have Gaia Project Terra Mystica on mine. So
yeah, I picked Terra Mystica just because they finally got the expansion that gave it all the Gaia Project fixes. I'll call it. So
I mean, Gaia Project's so close; it might just count if you say Terra Mystica.
It's Terra Mystica 2.0.
I mean,
just
it's
without
kind
all
of
the expansions.
Yeah.
I put Gaia Project / Terra Mystica because Terra Mystica has all the nice expansions.
Yeah. All right, well, there's another one off mine.
So my next one is my last huge major sweeping game. It's a little bit different than my last 2. But I had 3 that were mega games, and this is the last one. And that is Star Wars Rebellion.
Oh. Okay.
And I pick that because 1, it's a really fun game. 2, it's the type of game that yes, it's huge. Yes, it's mega. Yes, it's 3 hours long. But you can actually convince somebody to play it, even if they're not super into board games.
Well,
As opposed to Kingdom Death Monster that has the nude figures on the side and the monsters that are 3 times as.
Yeah, it's a little off-putting. So I mean, Star Wars Rebellion, like my brother doesn't really play a lot of board games. He plays like Quirkle at family gatherings and things like that.
yeah.
But the Star Wars piece of it is enough that if I sat him down and said, like, if I could get him to play a board game and say it's going to be long but you'll enjoy it, he would actually sit down and be able to learn the rules and enjoy himself playing it. I wouldn't feel like I was, teaching him a Steffenfeld game. And I think that's just because the theme of Star Wars is strong enough in the game and it's fun enough in the game that it really, the game just really zips, though it is a really, really long game.
It is.
As you saw there too, Scott's showing the BGG page for it. That's still number 7 overall.
Oh yeah, because it's a good game. I mean, it's just fun.
If I owned it, it may have bumped something off this list, but I don't own it.
Yeah, that's where I was. I wrote it down and I was like, I don't own this. I play Spielband's copy or I play with Jeff. Jeff, I think what you were saying that you can get people to play it is a good point, but I should point out the reason you can get people to play it is because you only have to convince one other person.
That's true.
Hey, do you have 4 hours?
Don't knock his game friend.
Yeah. And the 3 hours is overblown. I've played a couple of 3-hour games with that, but most of the games I've played with Jeff and Peter have been 2 hours, closer to 2 hours or less.
Well, and I actually have a funny tangential Star Wars Rebellion story, which is when I was at Dice Tower Con last year, it was like midnight. There was another guy who wanted to play Rising Sun, and I had just played it for the first time, and I was like, yeah, I'll play Rising Sun. He hadn't learned it, so I was like, I'll teach you Rising Sun. And so we sat there for a little while with the Players Wanted sign, and nobody came up to us. And so he said, well, if you're up for a big game, why don't we play Star Wars Rebellion, since there's 2 of us, big game, and that'll be fun. He's like, oh yeah, I haven't played that. So we got out Star Wars Rebellion and started teaching him, and Eric Lang came over to our table and was watching us play Star Wars Rebellion, and we were like, hey, fun story. We were just trying to play Rising Sun, but no one came over to the table. We were really looking forward to playing it. And he looked at us like, you guys were trying to play Rising Sun at midnight? You're idiots. So Eric Lang told us not to play his own game at midnight.
Yes, Eric Lang is the designer of Rising Sun.
Yes, sorry, that's probably important context.
Well, and you picked a game that's as long.
Right. So, but anyway, so Star Wars Rebellion, that is my 5th pick.
I vividly remember seeing Warren and one of his friends and 2 other people playing Star Wars Rebellion 5 years ago at PretzCon. Caleb had got me to play Great Western Trail, and I was like, oh god, no. We were 1 or 2 turns in, and CJ had shown up pretty late, and I was like, CJ, come take my place. And so as I was leaving at 11:30, Warren and 3 other people had just started a game of Star Wars Rebellion, and I was like, good luck with that, guys.
Oh, and he learned the hard way that a 4-player version of that is not easy.
Well,
don't play 4-player Star Wars.
That's to say, my stance on Star Wars has softened a little bit. I'm not really a Star Wars fan. But that game, and I thought they were dorks for playing that game because that game looks very dorky. But now Star Wars Rebellion is one of my favorite games. And as a person who's not a huge Star Wars fan, like you were saying, Jeff, it is thematically one of the best games I've ever played.
Oh yeah, and I'm not a huge Star Wars fan either.
Yeah, what you're doing is thematically appropriate to both Star Wars and the story they're telling, and the gameplay works really well with it.
Yeah. What else you got, Scott?
I have Codenames XXL Triple Pack, which
nice.
I don't own, but I would buy before I had to buy. Because the XXL versions are nice because the cards are twice as big, or they're 4K. Ooh, they're twice as big, but that's what 4K is twice as big. But
it's really one of those things where you have it for sale. It's a different price, but it's so much easier to see. And maybe it's just because now that I have glasses, I'm like, okay, what's that say over there? What's that go over there? And now you need social distancing. It's even more important to have that little more space.
Yes. Yeah,
social distancing code names.
Right, those small cards. You're like, oh, it's great. And everybody has to be like huddled up on the table to take a look at it. Like, what's that? What does that look like?
Yeah, whenever I teach code names, I do it a lot for company retreats when we used to do those.
The related searches.
Yeah.
Hey, I lost connection there for a second. Did someone say code names?
Yes,
That
but the
was on
triple
my-
pack has duet and pictures in it.
Yes.
Yeah, all extra large. That's nice.
Code names was on my list as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not have it. I did have a couple party games that
What
just
check game did you have
got
on yours,
bumped off.
Peter?
I didn't. They got bumped. They did not end up. That was the one thing I do not have represented well here as a party game.
That's sad.
Because you can, in my mind, like some of the best party games are things you make up on the fly. Like,
Yeah, and Scythe plays 7.
Yeah, that's a party.
Yeah, what about you? Did you have a party game?
did not.
I double dipped and I put trap words on my list too
That's a very good one.
That's a good pick.
because I own it, and I had to have 2 check games on it.
You could probably fit trap words and code names in the same box.
Yeah, code names can be pretty big. Trap words, there's not a lot to it, and a lot of the extraneous stuff you don't really need. But I've been playing trap words a lot via Zoom, and it works pretty well, especially if both people have a copy of it.
Do you even play with the rooms and the monsters?
We do a trap every room, and then we just make someone pick. We'll hold up 4 cards or whatever. They'll hold up cards, and we pick one. And the traps don't work super well in that game.
Yeah.
Like, they're just not a central part of that game versus, like, Marcus's love letter where, like, the traps or whatever they're called, the hindrances are a big part of the game.
Right.
So
I got 6 of mine listed here.
me
Okay.
too.
Everything else I have is esoterica. Are we at that point?
I'm at
Well,
6.
not yet. I've got one that was sort of hinted at. So I do have a Stefan Feld game that
Castles
clearly
of
is
Burgundy.
influenced by
I
my
have one
wife.
as well.
I also have a
Castles,
Stefan Feld.
Castles of Burgundy,
That's on my list.
and like need to have that with all the little mini expansions and the blinged out. I mean, it's such a good game.
Yeah, I have Bruges on mine for multi-use cards and hand management.
Bruges is a better pick than Castles.
I mean, Castles. The only issue with it is that the pieces are so freaking small and hard to see.
Yeah.
Like it's like Terraforming Mars. It needs a blinged out version, and for both companies who make them, they overcharge, in my opinion, for what you sometimes get, like piece wise. That if they like money so much, they should just go out and actually do one really nice. So
They could throw that stuff up on Kickstarter. I mean, I know they shouldn't, but they could. Like, if they released a $70 version of that and made people feel, or a $100 version of that, and made people feel like they were going to miss out on it, people would back it.
oh, without a doubt, they wouldn't.
Scott, what do you got?
For that.
What do you got left?
Are
on
we
yours?
into my esoterica?
Well, have you listed off all your 10 or?
Well,
Yeah.
so I have colonial diplomacy because I actually own it, and I'd like to play diplomacy again. But that's my one, like, why do you own this game? It's like, well, because I like diplomacy, and I found a rare copy of this game, and if I needed to, I guess I could sell it and pay rent for a month.
Yeah, it was not a crossover for any of us, I don't think.
I don't own it.
Well, I really like
It's one
Game
of
of
the few
Thrones,
that I don't own.
and I thought about putting Game of Thrones on there, but I don't own Game of Thrones, and that game is impossible to get to the table.
I considered Game of Thrones as well because I figured in this fantasy scenario we were all just like always playing board games.
Jeff, do you own it?
I do own it.
Yeah. Like, it's impossible to get to the table.
I think I owned it at one point. I think I kept it. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I kept it.
Well, I've told this story that, one of the longtime employees at Spielbound, Andrew, I traded my copy of Game of Thrones for his copy of Seven Wonders. And I thought it was a pretty good deal. I traded I traded a less expensive game for a more expensive game, but, I'm sure he's played it more than I've played Game of Thrones because I think I eventually threw my copy at Spielbound because, that's where my copies of Battlestar Galactica are because they're so hard to get to the table.
Yeah.
So my sort of, I wouldn't call it esoteric. The game that I love that none of you probably do is Alchemist.
I like Alchemist. It's not on my list, but I like Alchemist.
I love the combination of deduction, worker placement, fantasy, academia, and the expansion just improves the replayability. So
I'm sorry if that's not esoteric, then what is?
it is.
Alchemist isn't esoteric.
Oh my gosh, yes it is.
I love it. It is. I get a headache from it in a good way. Like for some reason.
Why
there's just
do you
lot
get
of
a
joy.
headache, Caleb?
Because I'm calculating all of the different deductions that you could do.
Is it likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or interest?
I mean, it does a lot. I mean, worker place. I mean, I'm a professor. I'm a research professor, and sort of like writing papers is what I do. And I'm doing that in that game, and I'm having grad students and feeding them potions, and hopefully not making them sick, and learning about how these.
The first time
work.
I played that game, I felt kind of like when I played Zolkin. I was just like, "What the heck did I just do?" But like Zolkin, I had some sort of respect for afterwards. I was like, "Okay, there was interconnected systems, and okay, if I just do better that, I had no desire to play it again."
Oh, I love it. The worker placement, that's fantastic.
My next game is one that I was really hot on at the beginning, and then I sort of dipped, and then the digital version has made me.
He wants to know why you're a unicorn, Jeff.
Or he's gonna poke us in the head with his pen. Like, what's going on?
Oh, sorry. Forget that I'm really big on your screen. I'm really small on my screen, so I'm like. So I was really hot on it when it first came out, and then I dipped, and the digital version has made me like it a lot more again, and that is Spirit Island. Again, that's another one with like replayability super high.
Single player.
It gets so hard that it becomes a puzzle, which I really like. I really like games that are essentially puzzles put into.
How do you feel that is Solitaire?
Say it again.
How do you feel that is how to play Solitaire?
I don't play. I play it solo, but with multiple spirits. I would never play.
How does that?
He's saying, how do you like it as a single player game?
I like it as a single player game, but not with only one spirit. If playing it with only one spirit is dumb, that's like. I mean, the spirits work together. That's the whole point.
Okay.
So playing it with one is, sort of neutering yourself from the start, but playing it solo is fun because that's where the puzzle aspect really gets in. And it's really easy if you play it at the lowest level, but if you start adding in the scenarios and the enemies and upping the level of difficulty, then you start to realize the puzzly aspect of it and thinking 3, 4, 5 moves ahead, which I really like.
So you put it on the table, you sit down, you have KDM on one side and you have Gloomhaven on the other side, and they all take turns.
Yeah, I just go from game to game.
Very good.
Just to keep the table from tipping over one way or the other, though.
Yeah.
I played Spirit Island, and I can see how that would be better as a single player app based game.
Yeah.
But whenever I used to say that about a game, you guys would get mad at me. So whatever.
All right, I'll throw one out here that this might be my Catan entry. It's another quote-unquote classic or modern classic is Dominion. It's my deck builder representative, and I have all 12 expansions. So
did we need
all in
to have
one
a deck
box
builder
even.
representated?
He had Bruges.
I did. It's
not quite the same.
yeah, it's not really it's not really a deck builder.
I get it. I considered Legendary for a similar reason in terms of like replayability, deck builder.
Yeah, I have all of that too, at least for the Marvel ones.
Is Legendary the second best deck builder?
I don't know.
I'm just pointing out how bad the genre is.
I love Legendary for the theme. I don't think it plays as cleanly as Dominion does.
I mean, I really like that German race game. That's a deck builder.
German race? Oh, Ethnos?
No, the one that we never had an English version of until, I don't even know. It won German awards.
What game are you talking
That's
about?
what I said after.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Quetzalcoatl?
No, the deck builder where you're racing to get to the end of the
Oh, El Dorado.
El Dorado. Okay.
Quest for El Dorado. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes.
I like Great Western Trail, but you already expressed your feelings on that one.
I like Great Western Trail almost made my list too.
That one's almost not deck builder, but yeah.
It's part of it, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I like it.
I mean, that's my problem with deck builders is like deck builders. like deck building is good as a mechanic in some other games, but like as a pure deck builder, like okay.
Dominion's done everything, and the fact that they're still putting out expansions that are decent and enjoyable
and offering new things.
Here's my question with Dominion, though, because I haven't played it in a really long time, and I haven't played it with a lot of the new expansions. I assume that there are broken combinations.
A few.
Okay.
Yeah, there probably are, but I
But you
don't
self-balance the
run into
game by selecting which cards you're going to be in it.
And smacking your friends who do it.
Well, that's the thing is you never have to play the same Dominion game ever as far as cards. I mean, I'll never play with the recommended starting cards again, only because I've done it 80 times. But
my other question, there was an app for Dominion for a really long time, and then that company like lost the license. Is there? I don't think there's a new app.
There's a whole site dedicated to Dominion out there, but I'm not sure about the current app. But yeah, there's been a few decent Dominion games that have come out, but yeah, I'm not sure licensing wise right now who's got what.
And thanks to your help, Pete, I have all of those in one box.
Oh, you're using that box now?
Heavy wooden box. Yes.
Yeah, mine is from that same almost 3.5 year late Kickstarter, but it's the laser cut wood one.
How long is that going to last?
It is. I had to start pulling things out of it now that I don't have the blank cards, or I think the next thing to go will probably be the selector cards. But
that'll be a future episode. We talk about how you blinged out your collections of certain games.
I mean, that game came out in 2008, and I'm surprised I'm hearing about it. Peter's really the only one I've heard still talk about it, but
it's a great
there's
game,
still a lot of people out there that that's their game. That's what they play all the time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, going from a game that's not very prescribed and can be different every single time to a game that is very prescribed. The last game on my list, the second last game on my list is Pillars of the Earth, which is very, very, very prescribed, and that's one of the big bad things about it is if you know what cards are coming out, you can kind of get ahead of it. But I really enjoy Pillars of the Earth, and it has a couple of mechanics that I really like.
That's the one based on the Ken something novels.
Yeah,
Ken Follett.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played that one. That was a fun game. I enjoyed it. I got crushed.
His name's really big at the top, and then the designer's not even on the front box cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's three Pillars of the Earth games, and the first one is the best.
Okay.
The last two games on my list are games I haven't played yet. So, and because I'm like, hey, I want to spend lots of time with this. I put the second to last is Arkham Horror, the card game, which is supposed to be a very good cooperative card game that sort of.
Jeff, don't say okay to that. What?
Jeff has it.
I've played it. I've played it a couple times. I didn't really enjoy it, but I could see some people really enjoying it.
I've heard so many good things about it, and sort of an experience of the board game, but in much more compact and straightforward.
The problem is you play through the scenario once, and then you know how to play through the scenario.
Oh, you don't own it, Caleb?
I do. I have all of them. I just haven't played it before.
There's only two things wrong with Arkham Horror, the card game part and the Arkham Horror part. Well, other than that, I'm sure it's great.
My computer's
Jeff, how many do you have left on your list, Jeff?
I have 2 left.
Okay, so do I. So go ahead. I'll follow up.
So my next one is my brain burner game, the one that I enjoy, also for the puzzly part, but just because it's a fun game to play. It's also pretty quick. And I think it's best at 2 players, but it does play up to 4 or 5, I think. Arboretum.
Yeah, 4 players.
Yep. That's a good one.
Mic drop. All right, episode over. We're not going to beat that.
All right, my next one is Viticulture with Tuscany. So that's my another worker placement, the lighter worker placement of the 2.
I've still never played Tuscany.
Tons of variability with Tuscany. I mean, so many different ways you can play it. That's why I kept that one over other worker placements that may have made the list otherwise.
So are Tuscany and Essential Edition, are those the same thing?
So they've redone it. Essential Edition includes some of Tuscany, and then there's also a Tuscany Essential Edition, which includes, I think, another 4 of the things that they didn't include in the Essential. And there's just a couple more that are not included if you were to have bought the original Viticulture in Tuscany, and he does sell those on his site as well, if you want every single thing.
Because
if you don't have either one today, the way to go buy it is go buy the Essential, and then if you like it, add on the Essential Tuscany.
But is there an Essential Edition that's not Tuscany?
Yes. Viticulture, the Essential Edition.
That's not confusing at all.
Yeah. So he stopped selling the other versions. The only ones that are out now are the Essential ones.
Okay.
So unless you happen to come across one in a store somewhere.
I got to do that for Jamie at Gen Con in 2014. Viticulture.
Sounds right.
And I was testing out his first expansion with that and playing with him, and it was just having a great experience. And you could think that there's all these different expansions, things he wanted to add to it from the Kickstarter and all these ideas. And then later on, he's like, Uwe talked to me and he loves my game, but he says, you need to simplify. Just get the stuff that's really good that makes it a great game. And that's the Essential version. And the fact that Uwe Rosenberg is reaching out to you to compliment you on your game and give you advice, I'm like,
well, and Uwe eventually made a whole card pack for it.
Right, exactly. They went in together with him and I think Alan Stone. So,
Yeah, Caleb, one of the very first games I played at your place was playtesting
Mamas and Papas.
Yeah.
We had
because you were playtesting that game before the big worker, the Grande worker was a thing.
Yeah, that's the way I was actually taught to play. It was with the Grande worker
10 years ago or something.
Without the Grande, you mean, or
we had the Grande worker and Mama and Papas before. It was
the first time we play tested it, there wasn't. It was the first time you said that anyone had ever played with the Grande workers.
Yep.
And like that game is that's a game.
It needs them. That makes the game so much better.
I'd like to play Tuscany.
I will gladly
Essentials Edition or whatever.
Well, I don't have the Essential ones. I still have one more.
I have one.
Go ahead, Peter.
Go ahead, Scott. I just did the last one.
Okay. Mine is Survive, Escape to Atlantis.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, why not? I own it, Jeff. I tried to like actually do games.
Don't ask him what his other 15 games are that he's going to get rid of. So
it wasn't hard. The original game came out in 1982.
That's great that you picked an oldie but goldie.
Well, someone was asking me about the Jaws game that came out last year, and I was like, yeah, but like it's not better than Survive. Yeah, I really enjoy Survive because you get to use sharks to eat other people's swimmers, or you get to use monsters to eat other people's boats, and the game is 100% vindictive, and you have to make sure you're playing it with the right group of people. And I've taught it in various Spielbound settings, and made sure that I was like, that's a game that's genuinely better and more fun with social gamers than it is with gamers, because gamers get mad because there's no rhyme or reason to it. That's
funny you say that, because I'll have to add that to my list. My friends were asking about different games that are not big gamers, and I told them, not to play Diplomacy, Nothing Personal, or something else with loved ones, because or Game of Thrones, that was the other one. Don't play those with loved ones, because a little too hard feelings in that.
I have friends who say the same thing about Catan. Like, Catan just drives them nuts. I'm like,
yeah,
really? That one does? So, yeah. My 10th was another game that I've never played before, that I have everything for it, except for like 4 cards that they put out in the Ultimate Edition. It's Mage Knight. And I thought it'd be good to have sort of an epic game that you could play solitaire or with others, but really sort of take it to the limit. And
I own a copy of that, Caleb. Let's play. We can play over Zoom.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I happen to know. Is that Vlad Shavato?
Yeah.
It is.
Wow.
So I went to one of Warren's demos. I learned like the basic rules in like the first 30 minutes, but I didn't stick around for the next 30 minutes to play the first turn. So I mean, that's not a small game when you're teaching 4 people to play it together, for the first time. So
I bet you that game doesn't hold up as well now that we have Gloomhaven.
Ooh.
Like, I remember playing that and thinking, what?
It's so different from Gloomhaven, though, isn't it?
I mean, it's thematically like there's some similarities, and that's what I'm getting at, is the mechanics of Mage Knight haven't aged as well in the decade since it's been out. Like Gloomhaven is really the first game that like made me stop and think like, oh, a heavy theme game with the whatever fantasy dungeon crawling theme can actually have a really complex set of game mechanics that work really well with it. Like Mage Knight, it's a WizKids game. Like it almost looks like it belongs more in like a hobby shop than like a board game store.
It's
like
just because of the license.
Yeah, but it's also
Jeff needs to say something here. He's thinking hard.
I mean, I don't have a lot to say. I've played Mage Knight just once. I enjoyed it. I don't remember much about it. It was 2 homes ago, so I know I played it in my old apartment that was by Spielbound, but I don't remember it particularly well. I remember enjoying it though.
I'll tell you what, though. Think about the variety of games Vlada's put out. The different range. I don't know if anybody else touches his range from party game to heavy game to funny game.
The only one who's even close.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Jeff, you got a last one?
Yeah, my last one surprised even me, but it's another one where the digital port sort of revived my love of the game. And it's another one that has really, really high variability, and that's Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yeah. I have the giant box of that. I should have added that one.
It's the variability is great, and then again, just the puzzly aspect of here's the it's similar to Spirit Island. Every hero, like no one hero could defeat any villain because the heroes themselves are not powerful at all. It's the combinations of things, and it's about exploiting those combinations and figuring them out that really makes that game sing.
All right, my last one, Scott's been praying for a digital version of, and that's Food Chain Magnate with the expansion.
God.
So that one is shot up. There you go. Caleb's got the Sentinels of the Multiverse box. That
I don't even own the big box.
That is so freaking big.
You should have that to go with all the rest of your boxes, Jeff.
Is it full?
It is full. It's gorgeous too.
Because you put all the actual boxes in. Oh wait, no.
No, they all slide in. It's one of the best productions.
Oh my god,
you'll ever see.
Wow. Yeah, I think I've missed the last maybe 2 or 3 expansions, but I own most of them. If it came out more than a couple of years ago, I own it. So.
Yeah, that last expansion is so hard to beat.
I own everything online, and it's on the digital game, and you can really up the difficulty in that game, and that's what I like. I like games where the basic version is hard, but then once you start to win consistently, you can just make it harder and better and make yourself have to think more.
But this was a hard exercise, guys, going from 6,000 to 10.
Well, and you picked. So my question about your last pick, Caleb, is Star Trek Frontiers, right? Is that included in Mage Knight, because it is a Mage Knight reskin?
Ooh, there we go. I didn't even know that existed.
Well, we have a copy at Spielbound. It's 1 to 3.
Probably says donated by Kaleb Michoud inside.
Yeah, I probably got it, not realizing it's part of Mage Knight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a WizKids game, so it's got the little counters at the bottom. It's a 1 to 3 players, but there is an expansion for a 4th player. But I might be able to get Bryce and Peter to play this game. But awesome. It's.
I mean, the reason I put it on there because I want to learn something new. I want to explore something new. I mean, I love Gloomhaven, and I would have put it on my list, but I feel like I've done a year and a half with it, and I'm good, and I would play it again. I'll definitely play Frosthaven, but Mage Knight seemed like something that would scratch that itch.
Yeah, it's a decade old though.
Yeah, I also put Race for the Galaxy and Quacks of Quedlinburg as sort of alternates, as just for the variety and the quickness of it, and for people who aren't heavier gamers.
Yeah, I don't want to gloss over Peter's last pick.
Food Chain. Yeah, Food Chain is strong.
It's a good game. It's a good game.
I mean, if any game could benefit from a digital version, that game could.
Yeah, there's a lot that digital could do for it, especially calculating distance and everything.
Calculating distance, having your cards.
Play.
Yeah, selecting your cards. Yeah, not letting you do things illegal, handling all, there's a fair amount of upkeep in that game. Like there's more upkeep in Food Chain Magnate than maybe I'm comfortable with on average, which is one of the reasons like Frosthaven sounds appealing to me as an app. Like unless Jeff's going to come over to my house and put all the pieces out for me,
I've started using Gloomhaven Helper, which really cuts down on that too.
What is that? Is it like
It's
a robot?
It's an app to keep track of like health and
Cards.
status effects. And things.
So it's
So
like
really, if you have Gloomhaven Helper, really all you need is the map and the cards.
okay. So it's partly digital now.
Well,
Well, and you still have the figures and things you move them around.
Yeah. No, absolutely
Yeah, yeah.
right. Yeah.
And that's why I told my friends during this pandemic, like they're going to play with their kids who are a little older. They're playing Gloomhaven. They're wondering if they could make the leap because they didn't know if they were going to like it. And I said, and they love it, but they've got it permanently set up on a table, and that's what we did too for a year and a half. Like
Yeah.
the Gloomhaven table, and it's all there.
yeah, I have it set up on a table in my house. That's just how it is. But
Well,
it's
this
so
is a tough one, and it went long, but it was really good.
And Frosthaven's going to add so much to it. I'm so excited.
Well, no one said Seven Wonders.
No one did.
Poor Cody,
No, we want good games.
not here to represent his 7 wonders.
Well, thank you, Peter, Jeff, and Caleb.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The Spielcast is recorded at Spielbound Board Game Cafe in Omaha, Nebraska. You can reach us at spielcast@spielbound.org, or you can always tweet at us at Spielbound with the hashtag Spielcast. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and as always, please give us a 5-star rating. Thanks for listening.